Tonight we have with us Shauna Corr from Plymouth University.
Hi everyone.
And she is going to talk to us about her research with the local resident bottlenose dolphin population and how you can help. So I'm just going to share my screen now with her PowerPoint presentation.
So hi everyone, I'm Shauna from the University of Plymouth and I'm currently researching the bottlenose dolphins around the southwest of England, and hopefully over the course of this evening I'll convert you all into citizen scientists for this project. Oh god. Sorry, never used remote control before on Zoom. I thought I'd start with an intro to bottlenose dolphins before talking about the current project and give you some background on these amazing animals. Bottlenose dolphins can be found throughout the globe, from tropical seas to cooler temperate regions, and are only actually absent from the poles. They can be found in pelagic and coastal waters, occurring in a wide range of habitats, with their distributions usually limited only and controlled by environmental factors such as climate and prey availability. We're lucky in the UK to be home to the highest northern latitude resident population of bottlenose dolphins, which is up in the Moray Firth, Scotland. And although some coastal populations, such as those like the Moray Firth, are relatively well studied, those in less accessible habitats with lower population numbers, such as our population around the southwest, have received less attention, and consequently we know a lot less about them. There are 6 species of dolphins living through UK waters, and we're lucky in the Cornish coast to be home to quite a few of them. So it can be quite challenging, especially if you to identify them, especially if you only get a brief glimpse, or you can only see part of their dorsal fin. Luckily for us, bottlenose dolphins can easily be spotted at the surface due to their relatively short dive time and wonderful aerial displays. They like to leap, they like to tail slap, and they like to spy hop, which can all give us a better look and identify them. Compared to other dolphin species, bottlenoses are quite plain. They're mostly grey in colour. They don't have any patterns really. They're darker grey on top and paler shading on their bellies. They have these lovely short stubby beaks, which is separated from the head with quite a prominent crease, which is also usually quite darker on the top and lighter on the bottom. They have long pointed flippers, a grey fluke with a median notch in the middle, and probably the most distinctive, if you're going to ID a bottlenose, is these lovely large sickle-shaped dorsal fins. And these dorsal fins usually have quite prominent markings and scratches on them, and the importance of that I'll come back to later in the presentation. Bottlenose dolphins can grow to be quite large. Here in the UK, they can grow to about 4 meters and live for up to 50 years. They reach speeds of about 30 kilometers an hour and can dive for up to 8 minutes. They eat a wide variety of organisms, depending mainly on their habitat. So those that live in coastal areas tend to feed mainly on fish and invertebrates that live near the bottom. Gestation lasts for about a year, but calves can be born any time of year, but it's less common in the colder months. They're very social, so usually can be seen traveling in pods and can be quite inquisitive. So they can come up to boats and they can do their wonderful aerial acrobatic displays. Now, bottlenose dolphins, as I mentioned before, can live either close to shore or out in the open ocean. So dolphins living in coastal waters actually belong to a different community than those that live offshore, much like tribes that are adapted to different environments. The differences between these two populations are observable, but they're just much more too subtle to divide them into subspecies or subdivisions. So instead we call them ecotypes. So in the bottlenose dolphin, we have the coastal ecotype and we have the offshore ecotype. Bottlenose dolphins live in complicated social systems known as fission-fusion societies, which is where the composition of the group changes on a daily or even an hourly basis. Much like humans and chimpanzees, the community doesn't stay together all the time. The community divides off into groups where the individuals in each group can change over time. And bottlenose dolphins, interestingly, have shown to actually have a preference for who they associate. And as very sociable animals, they do interact frequently with one another. So the term social structure here actually describes the pattern of these interaction associations that bottlenose dolphins has, and understanding the social structure and the associations of a pod and a population is vital to understanding the population in general. As different habitats have different environmental conditions, this can lead to dolphins having differing behaviours between different environments, and actually can cause some specialised foraging techniques. If dolphins are only interacting with individuals within their own community, there could be a limited chance for genes and these specialised behaviours to be shared outside the community, leading to distinctly separate ecotypes and communities within those ecotypes. Although coastal and offshore ecotypes can interact, they are distinct populations. They have different genetics, different behaviour, different habitats, and different prey. And in some areas, they've actually been shown to have some morphological differences. I think in around the coast of America, they actually have different sizes and different nasal forms, although we haven't seen any evidence of that yet in the UK. Therefore, understanding the social structure is not only important as it distinguishes the different communities, but it also interlinks and lets us understand more about the community's genetics and their ecology. So I thought I'd just give you an overview on the main differences between our ecotypes. So coastal populations are usually small. They travel in groups about 2 to 15 individuals close to shore. They prefer shallower waters, about 40 to 50 metres deep, and have distinct home ranges around the coast. Offshore ecotypes and the populations, on the other hand, are normally quite large. They can be in the hundreds or even into the thousands. They can come close into shore, but they mostly spend most of their time out in the open ocean, off the continental shelf in waters usually more than 200 metres deep. They travel vast distances and have no particular, well, normally they have no particular loyalty to an area. Now, the differences displayed by these two ecotypes is due to how they're specialised to their own habitats. Coastal dolphins have adapted to eat food such as invertebrates and fish in shallower water, sometimes using areas in their coastal habitat to help find and aggregate food, such as certain tides or steep slopes of the seabed, whereas offshore ecotypes live out in the vast ocean. So prey is patchily distributed out in the open ocean, so travelling in these vast groups over large ranges is thought to be one of their adaptations to locating enough food. Sorry, my computer doesn't seem to like changing between sides. There you go. And although these groups of dolphins, oh no, sorry guys, gone too far. There you go. Sorry, I think my internet connection is a bit slow. Okay, so although both of these groups of dolphins are exposed to threats in the marine environment, unfortunately coastal communities are particularly vulnerable. This is due to both their low population sizes, but also their proximity to human populations. Their small population sizes mean they're less genetically diverse compared to larger communities like those offshore, so are less resilient to disease and pollution. Due to limited numbers of reproducing females, as it's normally such a small population, they can also find it difficult to replenish those populations in comparison to larger communities when something bad does happen. Coastal dolphins, as I've mentioned before, live in fixed regions, so a particular stretch of coastline or a bay, and it's thought that they are adapted to that particular area. So they may have adapted specialised behaviours to catch food through, as mentioned before, a particular tide. So you might find it difficult or even impossible to move to adjacent areas where that feature is unavailable. And sadly, as coastal areas are particularly susceptible to detrimental activity compared to the open ocean, due to their proximity to humans, that only increases the vulnerability of these pods even more. Luckily, bottlenose dolphins are protected under various UK and EU laws. When a resident pod is identified, their habitat is protected through conservation zones called special areas of conservation. Currently, the UK has two, one in Morayfirth, Scotland for our resident pod up there, and one in Cardigan Bay, Wales for our resident pod there. However, sadly, we don't currently have any specially designated protected areas in the UK, well, not in the UK, in English waters, even though they're frequently sighted around the southwest coast. Now, you may be wondering, why should we protect them? What do they do for the planet? Well, they're charismatic megafauna, and they can actually be used to promote multiple conservation issues. Protecting an area due to the presence of dolphins can improve the health of a whole ecosystem, which benefits not only us, but all the organisms that also inhabit that particular area. And healthier, more diverse ecosystems can have economic benefits that, for us. It can increase tourism and create new business ventures such as marine tour guides, and can boost local economies. As I mentioned before, bottlenose dolphins can be frequently sighted around the southwest coast. But sadly, however, very little is actually known about them. From the late 1970s until about the early 1990s, it was thought that bottlenose dolphins were absent from the region, returning somewhere between 1993 and 1996 with a minimum population of 51. They were reported as the most commonly sighted cetacean in coastal waters around Cornwall from 1991 to 2008, with 46% of reports actually being bottlenose dolphins. But sadly, throughout this time in the study, it was discovered that there was a significant decline of their population numbers sighted around Cornwall. So due to this limited knowledge, the South-West Bottlenose Dolphin Consortium was created to gather information on bottlenoses in the region. It was led by the Cornwall Wildlife Trust in 2016 and created a collaborative partnership between various stakeholders within the South-West. Key individuals were identified and an open agreement was formed to collate all sighting information into a shared database. Sightings were submitted from a variety of sources, including ferries, wildlife tours, conservation charities, and members of the public. They hope to not only just learn more about bottlenoses, but they hope that by learning more about them, they would actually conserve the species in these waters. And an active member, although this has already been introduced tonight, is the lovely South-West Seaquest. They were a huge help to the project, especially all their lovely volunteers. And if you are new to Seaquest South-West, it's a brilliant long-running citizen science project hoping to collect data and engage the public in their local wildlife. And once lockdown is lifted, I really do encourage you to join one of their events. They're really lovely. So the sighting database, which was created by the consortium, collated sighting reports from all around the South-West to help us understand these bottlenose dolphins. And of these sighting reports, the most valuable were actually our photographic sighting reports. As I mentioned before, bottlenose dolphins have these lovely sickle-shaped dorsal fins, which can easily be spotted above the water. And these fins can easily be scratched and torn, which can leave these permanent markings, particularly on the trailing edge, as you can see in this photo. And these markings are often unique. Well, they're normally unique, and they can be used to identify individuals, much like how we have unique fingerprints that helps us ID everyone here. Now, this photo identification can not only be used to identify individuals, but it can be used to track their movements and also their associations with other dolphins. And this could be used to understand the social structure of the community, which is vital for us to be able to distinguish between coastal resident populations and offshore communities, and can also reveal whether there's any preferential association between our coastal resident dolphins. And tracking individual dolphin movements can also give us information on their range, their abundance, and their preferred habitat, which is all vital if we want to try and protect them. And of these sightings, historical photos are extremely valuable. Photos and sighting reports from previous years can help us track the survival of individuals, which means that we can start monitoring population trends, and they're incredibly useful. So what do we do when we receive these sighting reports? So once identified, individuals are given 1 of 3 degrees of marking severity. So permanently marked individuals, grade 1, have nicks or scars that are judged largely to be identifiable for the duration of the study. They're permanent, like these notches on this dorsal fin here. Superficially marked individuals, or grade 2, have rake marks or scars considered to last about a year. And temporarily marked individuals, grade 3, have light scars or rake marks that can fade between sightings. As you can see here, it's only a faint marking on the top of its dorsal fin. Once sightings have been graded, a catalogue was created in collaboration with Marine Discovery Penzance. And if an animal doesn't match any individuals we currently have in this catalogue, a new identification number is assigned and they're added right in. Once assigned an individual identification code in our catalogue, we need a good photo of both their left and right hand side, so we can use to identify any of our new sighting reports against. This is a nice view of our catalogue. And this makes it easier to match up our sightings and to identify dolphins who were regulars in the area. For this example, the first dolphin here is easily identified due to this big notch on the top of its dorsal fin. So this is topless. The second dolphin here is got this lovely ragged, well, lovely for us for identifying it, trailing edge, and it's particularly identifiable by that tag down at the bottom. So this is scratchy. And this third bottlenose dolphin has this lovely overhanging curved sickle-shaped dorsal fin with notches on its side, so we can identify that easily as overhang. Whilst it's also important for this catalogue to display the dorsal fin of each individual that's been identified each year, so we can monitor the changes in its markings. As you can see, over time, dolphins can gain more nicks, and they can certainly lose some of their minor scratches. So updating the catalogue each year is incredibly important, so we know we're correctly identifying individuals. So this here is an example of white strike, who's number 15 in our catalogue. You can see in 2010, they had relatively little notches, just 3 at the top of their dorsal fin. And then by 2011, they'd gained another, this larger one in the middle. And by 2012, they'd received quite a few notches. Sorry, I think my PowerPoint's frozen.
10 minutes, Shauna.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll speed up.
No, you're all right.
And this again just shows the progression of white strike until 2014. And as you can see, the dorsal fins, all the notches and scratches, are very different to what it was in 2010. So it is very important for us to keep these catalogues up to date. So due to the diverse nature of the data submitted, rigorous quality control is applied to ensure that inconsistencies in our data collection are minimised. So photos are given a grade between 1 and 4, with grade 1 being the best photos we can have. So this I'm going to show you a flowchart here that is how we go about assigning the grades. We first ask, is the fin in the photo greater or equal to 10% of the photo? Unfortunately, if it's not, it's assigned a grade 4. But if it is, we'll carry on and go through the rest of the flowchart. We'll ask, is it in focus? Is it parallel to the camera? And what's the lighting like? because if it's a backlit photo, usually we have to assign it a grade 4 because we can't actually see many of the markings, the superficial markings on the dorsal fins. But luckily, if the photo does pass all these criteria, it's given a grade 1. And this here is a wonderful example of a grade 1 photo. It's in focus, it's parallel to the camera, and it comprises 10% of the image height. And you can see it shows a brilliant representation of all the markings on the dorsal fin. However, don't worry if you're thinking, I'm never going to get a photo like this. This is quite rare for us to get these brilliant photos, and most of our analysis comes from all the wonderful sightings we get that grade 2 and grade 3, because those are still identifiable. So please do send in all your sightings, even if you don't think they're as good as you'd like them to be. And although it's difficult, we also ask, if you do see a pod of dolphins that, and you're photographing them, not just to focus on one particular distinctive dolphin, we'd actually like photos of the whole pod, because although we track the distinctly marked individuals, we need to know who they associate with, because this helps us understand their social structure and also gives us a rough idea of their population size. So after collecting and analysing thousands of reports from around the southwest coast, the consortium, let me just wait for the slide to pop up. There you go. So after analysing thousands of these reports, the consortium actually found the Southwest was home to its very own pod of resident dolphins. They found a core group of approximately 28 individuals who were frequently sighted around the coast on multiple occasions. And this map here shows sightings of the pod, shows members of our resident community, which are the black dots, and the red dots are actually members of offshore communities or lone bottlenose dolphins like Danny, who were coming around the south coast as well. As you can see, most of the sighting reports we have right now are concentrated around Cornwall, and that was from some of our lovely contributors and members of the consortium. But you can also see that we have sighting reports that go all the way into Devon and Dorset. And we actually think the dolphins might use these areas just as heavily as those reported in Cornwall. We just haven't got anyone reporting them in yet. So that's what we'd like to do this year. We'd like to address this gap in sightings and get more sightings in from the whole of the Southwest. And although an amazing amount of data was collected in that study, it highlighted that due to the low numbers, that this coastal pod is at severe risk of local extinction. And sadly, we currently still have very limited knowledge on our resident pod. At the moment, we know they live year-round around the Cornish, Devon and Dorset coastline, but we don't have much data on how long they live for, their preferred habitat and their reproductive rate. And to protect this community, we need the best scientific evidence to both support and encourage conservation action. So this year, we're hoping to extend the sighting network throughout Cornwall, Devon and Dorset and try and get as much data as we possibly can. And we're hoping by the end of the summer, we'll know a lot more on where they live, their preferred habitat, their seasonal preferences, if they're migrating a bit, how many there are, and how long they actually live for. And this is where we'd love you to come in. We need your photos or videos. As regulars around the coast and as dolphin enthusiasts, I personally think you'll have a greater chance of encountering this pod than most others. And you might already have some brilliant photos or videos you haven't yet submitted. We hope that by creating this large network around the coast of people who will submit their sightings and look out for these dolphins, but also spread the news about this pod, we can learn so much more about them and hopefully get them protected. Members of the public were instrumental in discovering this pod and are greatly needed to continue this work to conserve them. However, in the light of COVID-19, we want to stress, but we do not want to encourage non-essential trips to around the coast unless it's already part of your usual exercise routine or part of essential work. And we prefer any photos or videos you currently have is a perfect time now if you're stuck indoors to look through those archives and send them in. But of course, when lockdown is over, which hopefully by this summer it might be. We would love some more sightings of this pod, just to know what they're doing. And they're currently at the weekend, they were off in Hengistbury Head, which was quite sad for me because I've got family over there that I would quite love to go and see them. But on saying that, I must also encourage everyone that if you do see the dolphins, it is an illegal offence to go up and deliberately disturb or harass them in their natural habitat. Photographers should always try to keep their distance and allow any encounter to be on the animal's terms. And if you do see a disturbance or anyone acting inappropriately, please do call the disturbance hotline, which the number is on the screen right now, but you can also find it online or go and read some of the Cornwall Marine and Coastal Code groups and guidelines. They have some good leaflets. But if you do have any sightings information or know anyone who might want to contribute, please send them my way or head over to the Cornwall Wildlife Trust website, where you can submit sightings from the whole of the South-West, Cornwall, Dorset and Devon, not just Cornwall. Just wait for my slide. I was going to show you a link on how to do it, but I'm not sure it's going to work. Well, anyway, it's not moving on. But there is a link on our Facebook page. Oh, there you go. There is a link on our Facebook page that directly will take you to the South-West Bottlenose Dolphin submission page. But you can do it through the website. If you click on the Wildlife tab, sorry, it's quite slow. But if you click on the Wildlife tab, it will take you through to the wildlife records. And then if you click on Report a Sighting, it will take you through the environmental records of Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. And then you submit your sighting through there. I think there is a limit on how many photos you can upload at the time. I think it might be 4 or 5. So you can always directly email me and I can set up a Google Drive folder for you, or WeTransfer if you have lots of images or lots of videos you want to send us. But yeah. That's all.
Shauna.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I don't think my presentation's moving on. Oh, there you go. But that's it. If anyone has any questions, I'd be very happy to answer them. I'll just click through to the end. So yeah, that's where you click on the wildlife reporting, and it will send you through to submit your records. So here's some more contact details in case you do want to chat more to me. We do have a Facebook page, as I mentioned, and my email address is shauna.corr@postgrad.plymouth.ac.uk.
So thank you ever so much, Shauna. That was a brilliant and really informative presentation. I've got a few questions here for you. The first one is from Chris Hillier, and he asks, why weren't there any bottlenose dolphins seen during 1970s and the 1990s?
So that's a good question. It's one that we don't actually know the answer to right now. Dolphins do migrate sometimes and they can travel vast distances. We think they just followed prey or just moved away. We actually don't know. So that's something interesting that we could look into. If anyone had any sightings from around the UK, we can compare against. But yeah, we just don't know at the moment.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the second question was, what causes the rake markings? And that is from Jasmine Erwick.
Oh, so rakes are caused by socialization between bottlenose dolphins. So they use their teeth, their teeth cause the rake marks. So this can be done in play, but it's normally quite an aggressive behavior. But yeah, the rake marks come from their teeth.
Excellent. And finally, we have from Colin Robinson. They would like to know, how do dorsal fins get damaged on their trailing sides?
So dorsal fins are more exposed compared to the rest of their body, and the trailing edge is a lot thinner than the leading edge of the dorsal fins. So when they get caught on things such as like fishing nets or even boats, those can cause the notches and scratches. But even just playing with other dolphins, or even if there is a bit of aggressive behaviour, those can also cause nicks and scratches on the trailing edge.
Excellent.
Yay.
Thank you ever so much, Shauna. It really has been lovely talking to you, and best of luck with all your research. And we can't wait to see the final outcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
Cheers.
Bye bye.